Well, hello and welcome to all of our viewers around the world. I'm Fiona Langsharp, IBCLC Director Communications and MC here at Gold Learning. Welcome to Gold Lactation 2025 interviews with our incredible speakers. I have to say, this presentation with Elizabeth Montez is going to be, I already know Elizabeth, I'm just going to say it, it's going to be one of the best. I'm going to call it right now. No pressure. But this is going to take your thinking as a viewer to a whole new level. I guarantee it. This is going to, because it did for me when I first saw it. I just told Elizabeth when I first saw this abstract, it gave me that sense of being unsettled, a little bit confused. How does this fit in? Well, let me tell you, it does. It will take your practice to a whole different shape. You will have different conversations. It's going to change things for you. This is a change maker right here. And please welcome Elizabeth Montez. It's great to have you here today, Elizabeth.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Fiona. That was quite the intro. I'm really excited to be here and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm excited to big you up because I know not only is this something that I mean, I know that you love talking about this, but this is raw and passionate for you. So this goes below the layers. It's not just something that you just learn. This is something that really resonates with you as well. So we're going to talk about the topic. Everyone's like wondering, what are you going to talk about? Well, we're going to be talking about from extraction to stewardship, rethinking prenatal colostrum collection. Now, tell me, I know that you're passionate about this, but tell me, how did this come to be? What is it that first caught your attention in this particular topic?
Absolutely. Thank you. So most importantly, I want to really emphasize that this is not my own personal revelation. This is my community teaching. This is wisdom that has been held in my community as an Anishinaabe indigenous person to North America forever. And that is why I'm so passionate about it. And I think it's so crucial as lactation providers that we are recognizing our role as clinical providers who also are engaged with a lactating dyad as an ecosystem, and
Mm,
and the kinship practices that exist. And it's really interesting existing as an indigenous person in the United States, and there's so much really vibrant reclamation work that's happening, and also in our birth work, in our lactation care. And there's only a small handful of us in clinical care, but traditionally, this is community work. And part of the way that we need to care for lactating people is recognizing that um, supporting how they're cared for and setting them up for them to have the power and the care of their own body, understand what's happening. And I absolutely value and partake in really complicated clinical work a lot of the times. And
right.
that's important, but we cannot lose sight of the humanity and the relationships that are involved. And the practice of prenatal colostrum collection has been huge topic in in the world, in lactation land, with parents. I get so many people asking me all the time in my direct service work, what do you think about this? And my own thinking has really evolved over the years.
Right.
And I had such um a really emotional and eye-opening case study about a year and a half ago, that I'm going to save for the presentation. But that really was, it was a paradigm shift for me. It was when
Hmm.
everything clicked and I said, whoa, we 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 got to wrap our heads around this and we got to come at this a different way.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to acknowledge too the stewardship that you've been under and the community that you reside in and the importance behind that. I think that community is lost for so many people. Your community has obviously, there's been a lot of destruction, and you are still in a recovery phase, and that will continue for centuries, I imagine, to come. But the good news is that it gives me a privilege, to just listen, to know and understand and learn more, about our Indigenous friends. And you've been able to, so this is not this in fact affects everybody, because the basis of what you do is about community. And then you started to look at lactation as an ecosystem, which was really the next level of understanding. If you haven't heard that term before, stay tuned. You need to come to Elizabeth's presentation, and she's going to show you the impact of what's been happening and what we might need to do next in order to continue as, humans, women, continue to recover. Tell me a little bit more about, you know, why this topic in terms of, I know you said you have people, calling you, but when did this all begin? Because I feel like this has gone in cycles when it comes to colostrum. When did you look at it and say, okay, wait a second, I need to reevaluate this?
Yeah, I would say it was not a common practice that I heard about in my training days. So I started in my lactation professional journey about 8, 9 years ago, and I officially, I got my certification as an IBCLC in 2021. And in between that time, I very visibly saw a shift. When I was first in my internship
Mm-hmm.
phase and in my learning phase, it was really very minimal conversation around it. There was basically the idea of any nipple stimulation is going to put you into labor, and we should really stay away from anything to do with the mammary tissue or the nipples in
Sure.
pregnancy. And then started seeing a shift of, oh, okay, actually that stimulation can be supportive of regulating uterine contractions for labor. Okay, that might be a way that we utilize it. And if you happen to collect a little colostrum, no big deal. And I would say I really saw in practice, probably 4 or 5 years ago, was when I started seeing as a standard practice, people starting to talk about it. People on social media, there's starting to be a
Mm-hmm.
big push. And I think that that's really connected to this idea of scarcity when it comes to human milk and
Right.
the fears that people have.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I was doing all the research for the evidence-based portion and the, really making sure I had solid research for this discussion, I found there's research going back to the 50s, about the impacts of colostrum collection on lactation, which I was really surprised because I didn't think anyone was thinking about colostrum
Right.
back in the 50s.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And then when thinking about it in the big picture, in humanity, in the from the lens of, we are human beings who've been making milk for our babies since humanity started.
Right.
I was able to find a lot of supportive practices, and also this is where we'll get into the topic of biomimicry, of really looking at natural systems, and how are natural systems cared for, and what is the interaction between these systems and humans that help them function in the most productive and positive way. And that was like all these light bulbs going off.
Right. Right. Yeah. I have, oh my gosh, I've got so many feelings about this right now. The good, the not so good, the um I'm not even sure I want to ask this question, but I'm going to say it anyways. Are we manipulating the system? Are we what is happening? Like the biological faction, of what's happening?
So that is fascinating, and that is part of, I think, the whole picture that we have to look at. And I
Right.
I would say that um there is there are factors,
Hmm.
and that's where we have to look at the how.
Right.
Because it on one hand, when we have that extraction mindset, when we are looking at a human body as simply a vessel to remove milk from, we can
Hmm.
do great damage. And we see
Right.
that um, at all stages of the lactation relationship, of, where we hear of lactating parents feeling just drained, exhausted,
Yeah.
valued, and not feeling a positive impact of this relationship. I hear so often that folks are wanting that bonding connection that they hear about from lactation, but instead they're feeling touched out, they're feeling drained, they're feeling overextended. And I think that that really, really connects with that extraction mindset. When we are
Right.
valuing only the number of ounces that come out of our body, it's
Hmm.
extremely harmful.
Yeah.
And so instead, if we look at the body in that ecosystem lens,
Hmm.
look at our lactation as a system to be nurtured, as a
Right.
relationship to be engaged with, it really changes how we go about it. And it really
Right.
changes um, the approach. And we don't see people having that drain, that association with being dehumanized or disassociated from their body. And I don't think that it's, if we do it in the right way, I don't think that we are manipulating a system, but we instead, society right now kind of in general puts a lot of false binaries into our idea. um
Right.
it's either this or this, and these are complete opposites and they have nothing in common.
Hmm.
But kind of the spoiler alert is that those those are not the only options, right?
Right.
Is if and when we look at other ecosystems and we look at
Hmm.
other systems in nature, there is a beautiful chapter in Braiding Sweetgrass, which I always say Dr. Wall Kimmerer did not know she was writing a lactation book, but if you go read it, and I encourage everyone to read it with a lactation hat on,
Right.
it is a lactation book. And she talks about all these various different natural systems have evolved and have created an integration where we all care for each other, and they do better, we do better, and the systems do better when we engage in a stewardship relationship. And that's, for Anishinaabe people, that is really the base of all of our teachings, is kinship and caring for each other.
Mm. Yeah.
And
As it should be for humanity.
right, but it's really lost in this world.
Yeah.
I mean, we look around and it's about profit, it's about extraction, it's about all of these different values, not about our kinship. And so
Hmm.
one of the passages from Braiding Sweetgrass really hit me, and really came back to mind when thinking about extraction of colostrum, was about how when we tend to sweetgrass, that it actually is more, it thrives, it's healthier, but you have to do it in a good way. And
Right.
so one of her students had done their PhD research project on sweetgrass, because sweetgrass is one of our sacred medicines that is quickly disappearing and is not thriving.
Right.
Her research project was about these different traditional techniques that were different, and there's a little bit of good-natured beefing of like, oh, you did wrong, your grandma taught you wrong, um versus leaving it just hands off.
Right.
And the PhD board told her, this is a stupid research project. Everyone knows if you are engaging with it, if you're picking it, you're doing all these things, it's going to be less productive than if you are you just leave it alone, and you're damaging that the yield basically.
Right.
And at the end of it, the control group that was not stewarded was the worst off. That
Mm,
it did not thrive, it turned brown, it didn't really spread. Whereas both techniques that were used to thoughtfully and respectfully harvest
mm,
were flourishing and actually saw more new growth. And so I think of that in the context of lactation. And in the presentation, I share one of her quotes about how when we thoughtfully engage with the sweetgrass and we take what we need in a good way, we
right.
create room for more growth and more proliferation, which of course we know is such a relevant word to lactation, the proliferation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it just really struck me like we have to engage in a good way. And that doesn't mean sitting down doing forceful prenatal colostrum collection and extraction, you know, through the pregnancy, through the third trimester or whatever, but it means how can we help people get to know this part of their anatomy? How many of
Right.
go into pregnancy and then delivery and meeting our baby and actually have never really engaged with our mammary system, touched our
I,
breasts.
I think it happens a lot. I mean, that's the reality, you know. I mean, it's really incredible. Your presentation, I think, lends to the foundation of what we have lost. You mentioned scarcity and the impact that it's having. This is a worldwide issue. We're living in some type of fear at some point, you know, whether it be in, you know, especially if we're in that time period of the perinatal period. This again, you know, for me is the foundation of what we need. But not only that, I know that you're going to take us through some of the research, the fundamental and the advanced stages of what the body looks like through this period of colostrum collecting. Elizabeth, I can't wait to hear more. Honestly, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I'm going to direct everybody again over to the presentation from extraction to stewardship, rethinking prenatal colostrum collection. You can head over to goldlactation.com right now and register for this presentation and all that's coming up this year at Gold Lactation 2025. Elizabeth Montez, thank you so much for being with us here today. I will definitely be holding you accountable on the day, so don't you worry. I'm excited, you know, to hear what you have to say. But I've got some big questions for you about this topic, and I hope you're ready. We're going to have a really great time learning together. So thank you again for joining us here today.
Thank you so much, Fiona. See you all then.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us here today. We'll see you once again. You can head over to goldlactation.com for all the details on this presentation and all that's coming up. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. Bye bye for now.